Send it to you.
So, are we good?
Yep, you're on.
Yeah, so good morning. We'll call the meeting back to order, and we have Mike with us from Northeast Ag and Feed Alliance. He's on the board there, I believe, and we're going to talk a little bit about the organic situation and the feed situation. And so sorry to hold you up a few minutes there, Mike, but welcome and glad to hear from you.
Yeah. Good morning, Senator Starr and everybody of the Ag Committee. Certainly appreciate this time. As you introduced me, I am a board member on the Northeast Ag and Feed Alliance board out of New York State, also chair of our Norfolk, Vermont board, as well as I do work for Morrison Custom Feeds as a dairy nutritionist and certification manager there too. So grain prices for the organic dairy market or the organic market overall has certainly been, an issue in the last couple of years, but historically we've seen some, ups and downs over time. So I thought I'd maybe start, with there. Grain costs are usually the highest single expense on a farm.
Yeah.
Historically, we would try to target, as feed costs not to be higher than 1/3 of the milk income or the milk check. This has been a long-standing rule of thumb to secure the financial strength of farms. The organic milk market has allowed this to hold true for many years. And as a milk price was set for a sustainable price for these farms, which means the market made allowances to the milk price over time to cover costs of operation. From 2010 to 2014, there was a great demand for organic milk. Milk prices, because of demand, were rising rapidly, as well as other organic products, food products, creating a demand for more organic grain production. During this time, we saw a peak in grain prices in 2014. Then an supply of milk occurred. Right around 2014, we brought on a lot of dairy farms throughout the country. And then that's when a quota system started getting implemented in the organic dairy market. And that was trying to control prices. So from 2014's peak in grain prices, we saw a steady decline down to about 2020. And I'm not the super most computer literate person, but I'm going to try a screen share with you if possible. Does everybody see that okay? Or
No.
There you go.
There
There you go.
right there. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, like I said, 2014, we saw a peak. Soy and corn are kind of the backbone ingredients in grain that we try to determine where grain prices will be and grain cost projections. So 2020, we bottomed out. Soybean meal, you can see, was 858 a ton, and corn meal was down to 488 a ton. And actually, that was an average for that year. We saw soybean meal probably drop down into the 450s per ton. 2021 came along. A couple things happened there. There was a disruption in organic grain supply. We have to rely on imports in this country domestically, North America, which I include, Canada and the US in that. We only supply about 50% of our organic grain needs, especially when it comes to soybean meal. So we rely on world imports. India at that time in 2021 had a discrepancy in a certificate showing that it wasn't certified organic. It proved to be false, but it allowed for almost a doubling of organic soybean prices overnight. And that was about February of 2021. Supply was disrupted. We were scrambling. We were lucky we had enough supply in-house to keep us going, but there was a lot of panic going on for a while there. So that's what started that. And it just kept rising from there. 2020 2022, prices still rose. We averaged, for us, 15.60 a ton for the year, but the market, October, November of last year, it actually peaked at almost $1,900 a ton. Corn has been climbing a little bit slowly. Corn prices parallel along with conventional corn prices, which has seen quite an increase in the last year. So it's keeping organic corn prices on the high side for us. Farmers, grain prices actually saw like a 30%, 35% increase, which resulted from, as I started, we were a third of the milk check to 50% or higher of their milk income just going to grain costs, which is just detrimental. So what farmers are doing there are reducing grain feeding or stop feeding completely, which just spirals down the milk income, cash flow, and just kind of leads them out the door, unfortunately. As we look for this year, we're seeing a trend down in soybean prices. Right now, we're looking at an average of $1,200 a ton, with hopes to see maybe a soybean meal at year end at $1,050 a ton. Waste contracts are looking right now. I'm cautiously optimistic there. Just about a month ago, the USDA National Organic Program, NOP, announced strengthening of organic enforcement, new rules. A lot of those rules are targeting imported grain to make sure they are truly certified organic. We have not seen any ripple effect yet, but it takes just a little thing like this to have a huge cause and effect to drive prices back up. But right now it's not showing it. So we're trying to contract as much as we can before such a thing may happen. So we're a little optimistic there. Organic corn, we don't see coming down. Conventional corn is very short supply, waiting for this year's crops to be planted. Maybe that may drive it down by year's end, but right now, organic corn is staying on the higher side has been the last 3 years. Just to switch gears a little bit here at Morrison's, for what the impact has done for us, far as like accounts receivable, we've had to work, extra hard to try to keep these farmers, from going into debt, but we don't want to drive them out of business either. From 2020 to 2022, accounts that were, 30 days, past due, we went from like 8% of our business, our total accounts receivable, to over almost 18%. So a little more than doubling of accounts, just going past the 30-day mark, not getting their discounts. Farmers just having a tough time to pay their bills. Beyond 30 days, 60-day plus, we've held pretty steady, but we have to draw a line somewhere on these farms so we don't, let them dig a hole. And, and it drives our costs up, which drives their costs up too. We do see, however, milk companies do pay, or two out of the 3 milk companies pay seasonal prices where winter premiums are higher than summer prices. So cash flow in the winter does help us out a lot. These premiums go away about now. And then one company actually drops for a seasonal price on milk. They drop the milk price even further for May, June, and July, which, is as much as a $5 swing in their milk price down from where we are today to July. And we end up carrying the bulk of that through late summer, early fall, just to farmers' most expensive time of year is during the summer as they're cropping. So the first thing that gets held off is a grain bill being paid. So we do see a pretty good rise come September, October in accounts receivable, but by year's end, they start whittling that back down. Be happy to take any questions, thoughts, concerns.
Yeah, Mike, are there any substitutes for soy meal or the corn meal? And are they, it sounded like the soy meal is pretty much imported from somewhere else compared to the corn?
Yeah, corn is pretty much grown domestically. We've seen a huge increase there. When I say domestically, most of ours, because of our proximity, is actually coming out of Quebec. So we're very fortunate there. It's not coming very far. Soybeans, yeah, they're worldwide. We only grow about 50% of our needs here in the US and Canada, what the demand is across the US for both poultry and dairy needs are. With the poultry being a huge usage of soy. As far as other products, there are some, but they end up pretty much pricing along if you do a price per point of protein value, if soy goes up, people look for other products like canola, flax meal, peas, sunflower meal. But when you look at the cost of those on a per pound of protein availability, it's very, very similar. If you happen to get a contract on something before a price jump, you're in a better situation. But when you do run out and you have to go to the next contract, you do pay the market price.
Yeah. I noticed, go ahead. Can you take that off your screen
Yes.
now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have a question, Irene?
I do, in fact, you read my mind. Mike, you mentioned something, I think it was with soy that made the price jump. Can you go over that again, please, for me?
Yeah, in 2021, early 2021, that was the cause and effect that started the price increase. The country of India was a great exporter of organic soy, and and imported both to US and Canada a huge amount. They had a questionable certificate that actually went into Europe and that put a halt on all soybeans being shipped from India to be allowed as certified organic because they lost their certification temporarily. But once that was reviewed, it was found to be a false red flag, so everything was fine. But in the meantime, it stopped a lot of soybeans from being moving, and it just drove the prices up overnight because, like I said, 50% of the soy actually at that time was coming out of India, and anything that was in inventory we couldn't use. Anything that was on a boat headed to us we couldn't use until new certificates were issued. So a lot of that soy ended up getting dumped into the conventional market till the next round came through to show that it was all legal and allowed for use. And then since then, with the pandemic, and it's not truly pandemic. Luis Calderwork, who works for the American Feed Industry Association, AFIA, out of Washington, and a fellow Vermonter, she provided us with some information at our NEFA board meeting about a year ago. With the economy doing so well, and we rely on so many imports of just products that are manufactured overseas, competitions for barges and shipping containers were dueling for, with grain commodities being imported in. And we went from paying around $80 to $100 a ton for freight rates for imported soy to well over $600 a ton for that same soy just in freight. And that's if we could get a boat under it, because manufacturers, of our products that I call our Walmart products, coming out of China, those guys are willing to pay $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, up to $25,000 per container, just to ship their manufactured products here to the U.S. So we had a huge competition there, and it's coming down a little bit, but it's still a huge problem for us.
Yeah. Other questions from the committee? You mentioned your accounts receivable usually ran around 8% and went as high as 18%. Is that still hanging high, Mike?
Yes, it is. It's actually down a little bit from where it peaked probably back in October, November, but it's still holding up there fairly high. We're as a feed industry, you end up sticking your neck out a little bit because you don't want to be the bad apple knocking farmers out of business. And dairy always goes through a cycle, and we're cautiously optimistic between the the USDA announcement of some funding that's, potentially coming later on this year. And then this, this package that you folks are working diligently on, that we're hoping that, this will give some relief to the farmers and keep us in business and them in business as well.
Well, the infrastructure is very important, that's for sure. From the feed dealers to the machinery people, the ag suppliers are a very important part of our overall ag business. Are there any other questions from committee members in regards to Mike's testimony? If not, thanks a lot for spending some time with us this morning, and we are working on a proposal to try to help your producers, your ag organic producers out. And so stay in touch, and thanks again, Mike.
Absolutely. And if anytime you got questions, feel free to give a shout. We'd be glad to support. It's a well needed industry. Thank you.
So Laura, we got a few minutes for you. I know you can't jump from one to the other in a second, but I got 10 or so minutes maybe. So welcome, and we'll switch gears and go right to you.
Good morning. Thank you. And thank you, senators, for meeting with us this morning. I am going to have to leave right at 11 because my Dairy Innovation Center team is hosting a webinar for our processing expansion grants, of which we've released $12 million, and we've got about 75 people attending. So I can't be late for that webinar party that starts in a few minutes, but we have a great team here, and we've had conversations internally at the agency. So everybody here has the notes about what I was going to talk about, and certainly competent and capable to cover what I'm not able to discuss. And I will be with you also tomorrow. I believe I'm on the schedule to talk about geofencing or virtual fencing, but happy to talk about whatever else comes up after today's conversation. So I thought with the 10 minutes that I have, I could cover some of the numbers and some background, and then maybe the rest of the team could talk about some potential program ideas as we've been discussing them at the agency. So the first piece I wanted to cover was the current number of organic farms in Vermont. So we have 127 organic farms as of March 13th. So that number is verified as of Monday. Earlier in 2023, the reported number of organic farms from NOFA Vermont was 137. But E.B. Flory, who's on this call and is the division director for food safety, consumer protection, and the dairy section chief, clarified with some really incredible database work that 2 of those farms, so of the 137 earlier reported, 2 of those farms are tier 2 raw milk producers only and do not ship to a processor. 3 farms are certified by NOFA Vermont, but are actually not located in the state of Vermont. There's 2 in New Hampshire and 1 in New York. And 5 farms had closed, but had not been yet accounted for in those certification numbers. So that's how we were able to shift from 137 to the current number of 127. Then of those 127, and this is important for your considerations as you are making program development decisions, 6 of those are farmstead processors and don't ship any milk to a processor. So they are processing on site 100% of the milk that they produce. A small number, likely 2, switched from organic to conventional. That requires some additional cross-checking with the current organic certified farm list. And then an additional 2 farms have stopped milking cows, but have kept their young stock. And the dairy section considers this to be on hold. So they're still considered active farms, but not currently milking for a period of time. So when we say there's 127 farms, there is quite a bit of diversity even in that number, and just something for you all to keep in mind.
So would that put us at 117 active organic shippers?
It brings us to 127. If you, and then there's 6 that are farmstead processors. And so in that 127, there's 6 that are the farmstead processors,
Two.
2 that have likely switched from organic to conventional, and 2 that have stopped milking cows but kept their young stock. So they are still, aside from the ones that went to conventional, they're still considered organic farms. Whether or not you want those farms to benefit from whatever potential program is developed, I think is a piece of information that will be critical to make a decision around.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've been talking about internally as well is the timing of organic farm exits. So not every organic farm that has exited in the past year is due to the price increases of inputs. There were 8 farms that decided to leave dairy farming due to Horizon contract terminations in 2022. And that has really nothing to do with the feed, and the input inflationary pressures that Mike Thresher was just talking about and that you've heard from us and NOFA Vermont about. So the timing is important as we think about program development. I did have some information on feed prices, but Mike was just joining to talk about that. So I'll skip that, but we can provide additional information if desired. And the last piece of information I wanted to cover is the Federal Organic Dairy Market Assistance Program, otherwise known as ODMAP. So that's $100 million in Commodity Credit Corporation funds to provide support for projected 2023 organic marketing costs. Those costs include things such as hauling charges, cooperative dues, assessments, equity deductions, or capital retains. That's something that a cooperative has the ability to do if they're going to be making some reinvestments. Reblending, federal milk market order deductions for marketing services, federally mandated assessments, or advertising and promotion assessments apart from the checkoff program. So it's quite a suite of potential marketing costs that this program could cover. I know there was some lack of clarity earlier on about what marketing costs would cover in this program, but that's a list of potential things that would be covered. There's approximately 2,400 organic dairy farms in the US producing 5 billion pounds of milk.
400, Laura?
2,400.
Yeah.
So this program with $100 million in funding, it will be spread across those farms. It's a nationally based program and all farms across the nation will have equal access to the funding. What we know or some anticipated program assumptions are that there'll be a volume coverage cap of 5 million pounds. So that aligns with most other FSA programs. You have 5 million pounds of eligible production that can be covered, similar to the dairy margin coverage program. That level of production means that all Vermont farms would be eligible to have 100% of their milk production covered because none of our organic farms produce that volume of milk on an annual basis.
But have you figured out on that what our farmers could receive from the different programs that you covered that this money was going to be used for? Which ones would be beneficial to Vermont?
Right. So what we have also sort of heard through the grapevine of people connected to USDA is that in this organic dairy market assistance program, there will likely be a payment cap of $40,000. So what we don't know, and the pieces of information that are pretty critical to figuring out what the per hundredweight payment will be, is how many farms in the United States will reach their payment cap. And that's just a figure that we don't have. We don't know how many of the over 2,400 organic farms that do exist produce more than 5 million pounds on an annual basis. So there's been kind of a variety of numbers that have been put out there, everywhere from roughly 75 cents a hundredweight to $3 a hundredweight. And that's a pretty big span. So what we really need is USDA to launch their information so that we can see exactly what the program payment will cover. The program is administered by the Farm Services Agency, which is John Roberts, who's a close colleague of ours, and we are in frequent communication with him, and we'll get those updates just as soon as possible. We understand that the program is in the final stages of development and have heard, again, sort of through the USDA communications channels, that there may be more information available at the end of this month that would have more details about specific coverage levels for farms. So we don't know when the signups will be. We don't know what the payment turnaround will be, and we don't know what the coverage level is. And all of those pieces of information feel really important for this conversation.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure you know that nobody has that information at this moment in time. We're all sort of just waiting for USDA to announce it.
Yeah, so, we've been kind of hanging out with our, trying to hear when they were going to get things rolling, and it's slow in coming. It's 4 minutes of, and I don't want you to be late for your next meeting, but we can catch up again tomorrow or on talking about if we set up a payment program here in Vermont, if you're ready to deal with that, and how you'd like to deal with it. And maybe EB has some of that, those answers, but.
And I think EB, Nicole, and Amy, we've all been on meetings together, and I had put some notes together, so they all have the notes for what we were going to talk about. And I, 100% confident in their sharing the information with you. And then tomorrow I can answer additional questions. But I do want to thank you for the time this morning, and I'll see you again tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good meeting.
So, Senator Starr, if you'd like, I can take it over from here. And just for the record, I'm E.B. Flory. I'm the Dairy Section Chief and our Food Safety and Consumer Protection Division Director at the Agency of Agriculture. So Laura hit on different farm numbers and other projects. And if you all have questions on that, I'm happy to get more into the details on it. But as far as our agency dairy support program ideas, a few that we have going around is one, the continued dairy margin coverage premium reimbursement. That's been really successful. All shipping cow dairy farms are eligible, organic or conventional. It's low cost to the state, and it enables access to federal price supports for all of our dairy farmers if they want to participate. The DMC payments expected for most of 2023, as they've come out, it's been fitting with the Priceline budget that you all gave us. So the cost of the state, based on the current program, is approximately $3.4 million, and that is for 2 years of enrollment that we have data on. So the 3.4 million approximately we're looking at could handle enrollment for our Vermont producers for 24 and 25.
So, EB, so are you, do you feel that you have adequate funds, or what? I think what we need is the difference between what you have and what's projected to cost if we cover all of our farmers that sign up this particular year.
Yeah, I believe, and Amy can correct me if I'm wrong, the 3.4 million we're estimating would be for 24 and 25, and I believe that would support all of our dairy farmers if they chose to participate. We've not had 100% participation thus far. And some of that is just some of our farmers choosing not to. We would expect a potential change in organic, just based on the program being reworked at USDA to make the price constraints and other things that model better fit the organic industry. But Amy, do you want to get into like what's gone out and where we're at budget wise thus far?
I'm asking Jeff right now to fill me in.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
because
do think if everyone applies, we're going to need more added to this year.
Yeah.
It
Well,
won't
I
cover quite
thought-
everyone.
I thought we appropriated like 2.9 million in the beginning, and that if it costs us 3.4, we would be like 500,000 short of covering, what we didn't spend, what we had left over for this year.
Yeah, and the 3.4 I gave would be for 24 and 25, the 2 years of enrollment. So that's not current dollars. That's just like what we are projecting right now. We think that cost would be for enrollment for those 2 years, not current dollars.
So I have a question. EB, I guess the question is why 2 year? Could we not do this year by year?
I believe it's linked to the enrollment process with USDA and how, like, what the enrollment period is for. So you could do this a year at a time, but from the farmer perspective, when they enroll, my understanding is they would be locking in for those 2 years. And Amy's got her hand up, so I'll let her take it from there.
Yeah, we would need, just to clarify, for this year that we're in, if everyone were to apply, we would need an additional $372,000.
Yeah.
That's assuming everyone applies.
Everyone reapplies, or if that's every single farm applies.
This is for the folks that have already enrolled in coverage through DMC. If they apply to the program as it stands now for 22 and 23, we would need an additional $372,000 to cover those costs.
Yeah.
We're really talking about 3 different years here then.
Yes.
To sort of finish 23, we need the 300K. But for FY 24 and 25, you're looking at 3.4. And I understand, EB, that some of this has to do with sort of the federal inclination to go over a 24-month period, not just 12. So I understand that.
But see, the federal year runs different than our year. And I believe what we intended when we put this together was to do year 22, our year 22, and our year 23.
Okay. Is that true?
Well,
Oh, I'm asking.
because you paid last year like 1-point-some million out to farmers for 22 year, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so 23 year, that's the year we're in, our fiscal year in the legislature is 23 fiscal year right now. And what we want to make sure is that when the feds pay out the money this year to our dairy farmers, that they've signed up, some of that will run into our fiscal year 24, but we want to make sure the money's there in fiscal 23 to cover that payment, even though it's going to be made in our fiscal year 24.
No, understood. And I think some of the confusing part of this is that we have different fiscal years is what, part of what you're getting into, Bobby, which adds to some of the confusion. So we can check behind our scenes and get that to Laura for you tomorrow to check in on and make sure that we've got the fiscal year coverage and all those other things allotted for. But part of like why we're bringing this up is that this program, like program operations, are very straightforward for our agency to administer. And so it's been a successful program for that and with farmers that want to participate in it. And so it's something that we support for the future, especially with some of the reworking that's going on with USDA to make it make more sense for the organic producers and conventional. So, and part of why the economics and whatnot haven't worked out well for organic is because they really, and historically, the numbers really hadn't been run by USDA for a situation where they may need it. And it just harps on and drives home the unique situation that our organic producers are in. And it's not just in Vermont, it's a national issue. And so USDA is trying to rework things with that. So we're just voicing our support that your efforts in the legislature in years past to cover the premium and having a reimbursement on that for our producers. It's been very successful, and it's something that our agency can handle, and we would support that initiative in the future for all of our dairy farms that choose that they want to participate in that program.
I don't know if there are any questions from members, just, jump in. I guess my question is, we don't really know if that $100 million of federal money, how much that's going to mean to our Vermont organic guys. But if it meant say $1 a hundredweight, because I think Laura mentioned somewhere between 75 cents and a dollar per hundredweight, maybe. That would make this extra money that we need for the DMC program. If it was going to mean $1 a hundredweight, it would help a lot on getting that extra money for DMC.
Yeah. And I think the hard thing that's going to be to juggle is we don't know, as Laura mentioned, she's in frequent contact with John Roberts. And we don't know when USDA policy-wise is going to announce finals and what exactly it's going to look like. So we have rough numbers, but it could go in different directions. And so that's definitely one of the challenges that is trying to be navigated. And we recognize that. So another thing that our agency is in support of is the Organic Dairy Support Program that you all, and that's why we're here talking with you today. We do recognize that organic dairy farms were impacted differently than conventional farms in 2022. And as Mike presented, based on feed prices and other things, fuel, other inputs, the milk pay points did not increase at a rate in the organic market to cover these higher expenses. Consumer product choices impacted by inflation has impacted our organic industry, and many other pressures beyond these organic farmers' control. And so just some things that we've been kicking around at our agency with this program that you're considering is determining what is program eligibility. So, is it someone is currently shipping milk to a processor? Were they in business at a specific date and time? And so from that date forward, like June 1, 2022 to on, whether they were organic producer there, or they were organic and they sold their herd, or they went to conventional, like a cutoff date of when they were actually still an organic producer. And as Laura highlighted, the inclusion of our farmstead processors, they aren't shipping to a milk cooperative. They are operating within their own business. But again, because of the impacts of consumers' choices on inflation and other pressures, they've not necessarily been able to adjust the price that they are taking home. And some of these farmstead processors, they represent Vermont extremely well and organic extremely well. And so just trying to figure out eligibility and who you all want incorporated into this is important. I don't know if you have any questions on that, or I can move into some other just considerations that we've been floating around our agency.
Yeah, are there questions from the committee? If not, I'm wondering, EB, have you guys, it sounds like you the agency supports helping our organic people, and it's quite important for us to hear from you on what your projected price per hundredweight might or should look like. I know, a rough call was that they requested on the health side $5 per hundredweight, but as you know, we know, or as we know that you should know, and price fluctuates from one farm to the next farm, and that we've got to be somewhat fair about how we hand this money out. So have you looked at any of the different proposals to see what you folks have come up with as a fair price? Or
we have a few ideas. So one, the $5 amount didn't come from our agency, and I would prefer if NOFA would speak to that. That's who came up with that amount. And I know that it was looked at averaging different things, and I don't want to speak incorrectly to the math and things that they did a great amount of work on, but that's where that $5 flat rate came by. So we've had some internal discussions on like what would this program cover, and how would we cover it. And so one would be like, if you all establish a flat rate, it could be a per hundredweight payment. So I've been working
flat rate per farm.
Mm-hmm. So that's an option. You all could just say, we're going to do X amount to every farm. It could also be based on farm size. If you're an SFO, an MFO, or things like that, this is your bracket, you're paid. Another option, which is more what NOFA presented, which would be like a per hundredweight payment. I have been working with the organic buyers to actually get legitimate numbers to know what for the year 2022 by month, how much milk left Vermont and went to these processors. So I'm still waiting on one organic firm to get back with me. The rest have gotten me all the information I asked for. So we're still in the mode of trying to get definitive numbers that we could share with you all. So if you decided we want to do X amount of dollars per hundredweight, what that actually would look like, what that dollar amount would really be. So that's still in the works. And been following up, and if I don't hear from the one, Bobby, I might have to enlist your help, Senator Starr. But we'll see. Hopefully they'll respond soon. And so, but we are trying to get actual figures to have a better idea to help you all make your final decisions. Another payment option could be based on the overall increase of inputs between 2021 and 2022. So you could look at feed prices were like around 40% higher, fuel prices 100% higher, or whatever that actual percentage is. And instead of making it like a payment based on a hundredweight or a payment based on a farm size, just having actual information turned in by the producers, and looking at what expenses went up and looking at an amount to cover. So the other thing that gets into determining what the program will cover and how you all want to shape this gets into what our level of ability and also for applicants it is for support in this program. So we at our agency and TA providers throughout the state, we do not have the capacity to administer a VCAP like program. That was very, very labor intensive. We had to have another database created. We pulled staff or had staff pulling basically double work and putting in a tremendous amount of hours. We were able to bill that amount of money to the feds, which helped in some capacities, but we don't have the staff that could put forward a program like that. And I do think if you heard from farmers, I think a lot of them would feel that program, it was difficult application wise. There was a lot of things that had to be submitted and reviewed and edited. And we also had issues with the database from an auditing standpoint. And so that is a consideration, like what will the documentation needs be? We feel they should be straightforward. They should be easily accessible and clearly linked to whatever program goals you all provide. And we will need administrative support for program operations. So if you, for instance, if I am able to secure the actual hundredweights and verify that with the milk cooperatives, and if they send it to me by each farm, like we would already have that data on hand. We could tell you this is how much was produced in Vermont, and we would have actual dollars. And depending on, eligibility date ranges and who's there, like we would already have all the information verified to know what payments are going to which people. And so that would be pretty darn straightforward. But we're open to you all's opinions and your minds and what you think would be best for Vermont dairy in these instances. So we're just expressing some of the actually getting the money out the door, and we recognize that these farmers needed this money 6 months ago. I'm sure a lot of them would say maybe even longer, and so being able to get things and hit the ground running and smoothly and getting payment out the door to support them is a high priority for us.
So the DMC program, it's all pretty much done on a hundredweight basis, right? And what they're insured for, and we've had good luck, or you folks have had good luck in getting those payments out. And it's worked, I believe, worked quite well from all the reports we've received. The only thing I'm wondering is on the DMC, it's capped out at 5 million pounds. And with the organic guys, we don't have set caps, right? We don't know we don't know really if we have farmers that send 2 million pounds organic milk or 3 or if they're all under 1 million pounds. But do you think from your conversations with the processors, you think you can get those numbers?
Yes, sir, I do. And I will just say, and this is just my opinion, and Amy and Nicole can correct me if they want, but my opinion is when we're able to get that hundredweight information, I feel like that would be a very streamlined way to get money out the door. It's actual numbers verified by the people that purchase the milk. So they know what it is and we're verifying it with them, and we would have the producers listed. And so it would be more streamlined. And Amy, if you want to weigh in with that, please feel free to.
Yeah, Amy or Nicole, have you got comments in regards to that particular issue?
I agree with EB that would be very streamlined and help get the money out the door quickly.
So on a per hundredweight basis.
Yes.
And what about size of these? Are there any? I don't believe there are any large, what we consider LFOs, but there might be some medium.
That's
Is there
correct.
some medium LFOs?
Yes. I believe there's two. I would have to check with water quality on that, but there aren't any LFOs. And I will know better once I get final information in from the other purchasers, and we could have a conversation of here's the range. I know the cooperatives wanted to more look at this. There's concerns of proprietary information and protecting that, which producers' milk and how much they produce is something like when we have a public records request that's not released because it is proprietary to the farm. So we've been working on aggregate, and then in some way in the bill, like if you want the hundredweight like route, like we would want a way to try to protect that proprietary information, not trying to withhold to taxpayers of Vermont how much money is going out the door, but trying to have it figured out, a way to protect some of this proprietary information. And that's been some of the concerns from one particular milk purchaser. So.
Well, I don't think we need to know, we in the legislature don't need to know certainly what anybody produces for milk, but it would be nice to know if there are 15 medium-sized farms or 2 or 10, you know? And so we could sort of figure out some money and be able to convince our fellow senators and representatives that you know we're using good solid information.
Yep. So I'll follow up with the one processor and encourage them strongly to get us that information. And in the meantime, I can work with our water quality group. I believe it's 2 organic farms that are MFOs, but I can work with water quality to confirm that. And if I don't have an answer by the time Laura testifies tomorrow to report out, I can email the information to Linda for you all and get that range just for an idea of that. But my goal at some point is to be able to say like X amount, 100 weight pounds were made and produced in, in 2022 or whatever date range you have, like some way as an aggregate, so you all know like what that amount is, for you all to better figure out what payment amount and things that you all want to go forward with.
Yeah, and tell that processor that's holding you up that the legislature feels that if they don't want to come forth with that information, that they may pay that premium to their producers themselves.
I will be happy to email them that, Senator Starr. So,
Mr. Chair, can I ask, go back to that $100 million figure that Laura referenced earlier. And I know there's some uncertainty in terms of when we're going to know, but it would certainly be welcome, I think, for this committee to be able to work in concert with the feds in terms of coming up with a plan that includes everybody, both conventional and our organic folks. And is that part of the farm bill? Is that what we're waiting for to get passed, or where is that 100 million coming from?
My understanding, it's not part of the farm bill. It's what USDA is trying to roll out. And my assumption is they're having internal discussions. What was released, it could go in different ways of what the cap may be. And so I think that USDA is trying to determine what that will be. And we've not been given a time frame. What we do know, based on the coverage cap that Laura mentioned of annual production, all of our farms in Vermont would be 100% covered. Right now, we think that cap is going to be around 40,000, but depending on how they actually do their calculations, that could change. We do think that payments could actually be released either by summer or fall of 2023. And so that's what we think. We don't know that, which is part of the challenge, and I understand that's a frustration.
Well, that certainly is good news as far as I'm concerned. If we're talking about summer, I mean, we're 4 months away from
Yeah.
spring, or
So, and
late
even if
spring,
it
early
was,
summer. Yeah, and and I understand that if you think the Montpelier governmental system works slowly, we ain't got nothing compared to the Fed. So it could take a lot longer than that, but that's good to hear, Evie. I think that's going to help us figure out a plan here.
So me personally, I have lots of faith in our legislative group in Montpelier and your speed. So no complaints for me on that. But I would say, at least with the feds and other things that sometimes can be held up, I think it's likely that we would have payments in 2023. If they met summer, that would be amazing, but I think it would probably be better to bank on fall, and maybe we're surprised when it rolls out. But at least if payments are projected in 2023, I think that's a great thing, even if it's later in the calendar year. So
I appreciate hearing those comments. Thank you.
So I guess committee, we don't know if it's going to be a July 4th celebration with that federal money or a Christmas present next winter. But I'm sure companies like Morrison Feed would like to get paid prior to either of those dates, if at all possible. But it seems to take a long time for the feds to figure out how to do things. And of course, they're as concerned as we are about fairness and appropriateness and all of that. So, so Nicole, did you have anything that you wanted to throw in here?
I don't. I feel like Laura and Evie have covered it, but I do have my list of questions for follow-up, so happy to do that.
Yeah, and so, and Amy, you do the bookwork, right? Are you the bookkeeper?
Yes, that would be yes.
And yeah, so you keep everything straight, or try to keep it straight. So in review, it looks like if the simplest way for you folks to deal with this is through a per hundredweight basis, and that's pretty straightforward, and you just multiply the dollars by the hundredweights, and away it goes. Once you get the hundredweight verified, you're going to get back to us on small, medium, and large. Yes, and the other issue with that is, our categories start at 50, I believe, small, 50 and up to 199 or something like that. What about, are there some farms below 50 that could possibly be miscounted or not counted? Or or do you think small with organic goes all the way down to where they ship?
It should be broken down. We have certified small farms and then small farms. And so that should cover even the lowest ones. So I'm gonna, after this call, I'll follow up with water quality on my list of organic producers and we'll get a breakdown of it. But you do point out a great point, Senator Starr, in that there is a range within those groupings of how many animals they have and how much milk they may be shipping, which is part of why we were trying to lock in on that hundredweight information to have actual dollars.
Yeah.
And so then, the conversation would be what you all want the dollar amount per hundredweight to be. And we would know better, quickly be able to calculate what the payment out the door would be, whether it was $5 or another dollar amount you pick. So we'll work on that, but we'll also get to you and hopefully it'll be by the time Laura testifies tomorrow. But if not, I'll send it to Linda, what categories those farms fall under in Vermont, just so you all have like a run-in knowledge on that.
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
I was trying to think if there were other questions that you could, if you didn't know the answer, could be gearing up for tomorrow. Are there any other issues that committee members can think of that we need to know to move forward?
I'm all set.
Y'all quite. Yeah. And what about you folks from the agency? Is there anything that we haven't asked you that we should have asked you? That's kind of putting it to you, isn't it?
One thing I'll just note and can tie in for Laura tomorrow is we do see our dairy farmers across the state, not just organic, but conventional, all of our dairy farms. They really are trying to modernize and innovate. And so the Dairy Business Innovation Center, they've had a lot of applications coming in for on-farm milk storage and handling, and other grants, and Laura can speak to that. And because it's not just Vermont that this group covers with the DBIC, but more states. Right now, there's more requests than there is money available, and so there is interest in growing dairy, and trying to meet climate goals and other innovation goals that we have as a state. And I think that's awesome. But it is something out there to consider as well across the board, of just needs and other things that our farmers are trying to do. So
yeah, and we did last year. We worked with you folks on like driveway improvements,
Yes, sir.
bump tank upgrades, and things like that. I don't know if we ever did get a report or a rough idea on how that worked out, but sometime it would be good, because when we go to the Appropriations Committee, it's no different than when you folks go. They ask us hard questions. Well, what about that money we gave you last year? How much good did it do? Or did it do any? And all this. So sometime along, if we had, if you helped with five driveways and 14 pie stalls and whatever, it would be good to just have a ballpark figure on it.
And I know that was open. That was open for I believe the farms impacted by the Horizon situation. And I know Diane hit on that before she retired with you all. It was very early in the session. And I think that was the program that whatever you all allotted, like it was very close to like perfectly being allocated. It was like a spot on number.
$1 or $2.
It was very close. So But I'm not sure, as you said, that we broke down into like bulk tanks and other things, but that was very well received and it did address issues and those farms were able to be picked up by other cooperatives and keep shipping. So
Yeah.
that was definitely a success.
And what do you, in general, what do you hear from our other dairy guys, the conventional ones? I noted that when we talked about the DMC program, that not all farms signed up, and from the literature that I read, like Country Folks and your Ag Review and those papers, I mean, everybody has been promoting farmers to sign up this year because of the projected milk prices, and we still have some that haven't signed up or didn't sign up because the deadline's long gone.
Yeah, and I think it's every opportunity to sign up and hurdles to sign up. I feel like you all have really helped all of our dairy farmers with, and especially with the continued reimbursement program with DMC. But I think for some farms, it may just be some don't necessarily want to participate with the federal government, and for others, I'm not sure what their motivating factor is. I don't know if it's just their finances and they don't feel that it's worth their time, but it's a very important program and it provides a safety net that we have very much so encouraged our producers to take advantage of. We appreciate you all allocating funds to help make the hurdle to entry and to have that safety net more palatable and not money out of their pockets to help secure them. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I know back the year before last, when it paid out quite a bit. I mean, we had farmers that received $40,000 and $50,000 a farm, and here we are paying the premium on the insurance, and we can't get them to sign up. It really, makes you feel kind of bad as a public servant to try to put something out there and they won't sign up for it. But
Yeah.
that's personal choices, I guess. So
Yes, sir.
you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So is there anything else that either any of you want to comment on? If not, thanks a lot. We're sorry we dragged us on this morning, but we did have time commitments from others, like our time. Your time isn't worth maybe quite as much.
I won't make a comment.
Well,
Mr. Chair, I just want to follow up if I may.
oh,
We have another
sure.
man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Evie mentioned that all the farmers are trying to modernize and innovate, it reminded me that yesterday I brought up the fact that there was a House bill talking about diversification of farmers. So not necessarily staying in dairy, but maybe going to beef on dairy, something like that. I followed up with folks on the House Ag Committee. The bill is number 205. And they passed it out of committee yesterday. It's headed for a House approach. So we may indeed see that soon on our end. And I just wanted to, for the record, I know I've been in touch with the chair about those details, but I wanted to inform the rest of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Irene. I did get that email this morning on the bill number.
Great.
Anything else from the committee?
All set.
If not, thanks a lot, folks from the agency, and we'll have Laura on tomorrow, and if any of you want to come back, you're certainly more than welcome.
Well, thank you, and
Thank
thank you for
you.
your time and y'all's efforts on this. It means a lot for the dairy industry, and dairy is a very important thing in my life and always has been, and I appreciate you all recognizing its importance for our landscapes and our economy in Vermont. And thank you for your efforts in trying to figure this out. So
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
thank you all so much.
So, that kind of winds up our formal information this morning. I don't know, Amy, did you have anything that you wanted to present, or were you just a guest with us?
Who? Me, Al?
Asking. Do you mean Emma?
Yes, Emma.
We're looking around for Amy.
No, we're all set, Senator. Thank you.
I meant Emma.
It's
Sorry.
okay. Yeah.
She says she's
You
all
should have
set.
just taken advantage of that and said, I'm not Amy, but boy, have I got a load to unload on you. So it sounds like both what Dan and the lady from the extension presented and what we heard from Morrison Feed, who supplies a lot of the organic feed in Vermont, that there's certainly a dire need out there for the organic folks, as well as the agency seems to be supportive of expending this some revenue on trying to stabilize that. So I think we're good. Well, it's up to the committee, of course, to move forward. I know, Brian, you mentioned that you felt that, we've got to look at the whole picture and not just part of it. And I don't know what there is for help for the conventional guys. I want to make sure that we get them covered on the DMC premium part, which will mean real dollars to them eventually this year, because the projection, like milk prices right now are down to, I think they're down in the 19 and $20 range.
Yep.
I don't know if, Emma, have you received any of those numbers?
I have, but I don't have them off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know they've been dropping. And
I think 19 sounds right to me, in the 19 range.
yeah. So, and I don't know how much money we can go get down the hallway. But if the feds would come through with $1 on the organic side, that would make quite a difference. If we, used the $4 number instead of $5, it would free up some of that 9.2 for other things.
Yep.
I don't know if any of you have thought about the overall cost or not.
Well, today certainly helped, because I was not tuned in like I am now after hearing from the ag folks.
Yeah, they, I was a little bit surprised that they came right out supporting, the help, but they certainly must understand the real ramifications of losing, we can't afford to lose many more farms when we're down under what, right around 500.
Yep.
It's a pretty sad state of affairs, and so if there's no other, Irene.
Yeah, just one of the thoughts I had was that the organic dairy folks were looking for money in the form of $9.2 million to make themselves whole from 2022. And my impression is that the conventional dairies are not in a hole from 2022. So that's where I would draw the distinction. If the conventional dairies are saying, wait, what about us? My answer to them at this point, until I know more, or maybe I'm mistaken, is we're looking at 9.2 to make them whole, the organic guys whole. We can deal with making everybody whole for the future, in the future, but right now, I don't want to take that 9.2 and start parceling that out to people who didn't have a problem in 2022 making ends meet.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we've heard that nobody else has had a problem. No, I guess nobody else has been rattling our door or coming in to see us as much as the organic folks. But yeah, I do go to quite a few farm meetings, and there really isn't any of them that are sailing on the high side of things.
Well, I just knocked in, Bobby, the number of small farmers going out is across the board.
Yeah.
So, and I think that speaks for itself.
Well, I think maybe the bigger ones have more or better places they can leverage funds from. But usually we try to be fair to everybody, but I know the organic guys have taken it the hardest probably, but a lot of our other small conventional farms they're the ones that are missing in those numbers more so than our medium and LFO guys, but they probably aren't very far behind. So
I just say, Bobby, I think this dike has got more than one hole.
yeah, it's not very good to look at, but I think the dike has got a few little leaks in it.
Yes.
And the part that's bothered me, I mentioned it earlier, is why haven't all of our guys signed up for the DMC program, especially when we'll pay the cost of their premium? Because everything I've read shows at least 6 or 7 months of payments from the feds on this, and that's real money, and would make quite a difference. But anyways, so anything else for this morning from the committee?
I think we're all set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll get some information back for that we can send Michael on for drafting and on the fencing stuff. Is that's something you folks want to look at in draft form, I would presume?
Absolutely.
Yeah, do you want a motion or do you just want to go do it?
No, we'll get the material back from Dan. We'll talk to Michael. I think he's going to be with us tomorrow. and we'll just, as a committee, we'll chat with him about drafting.
Okay,
Super.
Yeah, so,
hope
I
you
think-
feel better.
yeah, with that, well, I think I'm getting better, I think, I hope. I just had to leave once since we've been on, so that's quite a plus. But anyways, thanks a lot,